Welcome, wildflowers. I invite you to tune yourself. Get some breathing going. Consider doing yoga while you listen or going on a walk. We are called to an incredible challenge. It is more beautiful than anything I know. I would not trade this for any other life. Yet it is extremely daunting having two jobs. You have two jobs that you may or may not have accepted. And I urge you to consider that you will not be at peace until you do accept these jobs. The first job is to be a rainbow light for the world. The second job is to be a warrior. This statement, this word is problematic. I do not like war. Well, be conscious. The reason we need to take this word is because we have to win. We have to win over the same forces that kill: murder, rape, steal, attempt to use dominance to overthrow other beings in the world, to own them, to force them to be different, to force them to leave, to force them to change, to force them to stop doing and breathing and living as they are. We have to stop people who do that. We have to. It's our job. We can't afford to just sit back and pretend the world doesn't work the way it does. But the gift of this process is that we're not supposed to focus on it. You need both of these jobs, and you need the rainbow light to be the most important. You need the activation, the enlivening, the joy that surrounds you to be intrinsic within you. You need the joy that is intrinsically latent, dormant within you to come to life and live around you. And you cannot continue to allow yourself to be rolled over. Now, please be present with this. How many of you live day to day not knowing when someone's going to basically step on your heart? You live day to day with a vibrancy that's present, that you know, and you can find it, and then it slips away. And every once in a while, you're able to say, it slips away because I don't know how to protect it. Is this you? To be honest about this is very painful, particularly in my experience for men. We're not supposed to be weak. We're not supposed to let the world roll over us. If we do let the world roll over us, we're not an alpha male. Not one of these bro guy dudes. It's worse than that. The terrible feeling that you don't know how to maintain yourself in the face of forces that you absolutely cannot trust it's a sickness. To step into a life where you win that is daunting, because I don't know about you, but in my experience, it feels in many ways worse to become the forces that have hurt me. I have no interest in hurting other people in the ways that I have been hurt many times in my life. None. To become that is the greatest loss. To become someone who steps on other people's faces in order to uplift ourselves. And so I chose not to. And for years, I walked around the world and I would create my vibrancy and it would get squashed. And I would create it and I would have to sacrifice it. And I would create it and I would bend. Now, I was resilient. It was, in many ways, incredible. And yet, the experience of losing my truth, my light, again and again, was very deeply devastating. What if I invite you to recognize you are called to refuse to lose it? You are called to keep it lit. Now, today we're going to talk about how to do that and why it's so difficult, because you have two jobs. One is to be the light of the Christ consciousness that is awakening in this world. It is every bit as intense and amazing and mystically transcendent as you can imagine. The only thing that you might lack is an appreciation for the fact that we're supposed to do it together. We're supposed to do this together. None of us are becoming a Messiah in the form that we were taught to understand from the past. These are old stories. They're of the age of Pisces. They are not relevant in certain ways. They were the incubators, they were the gift, they were the seed. But in order to stay present with the fruit of these stories, we have to husk them, get rid of the coverings, the trappings, the historical inheritance, and be present with the second coming is all of us. All of us. It's not everyone in the world. A lot of people will leave. A lot of people will resist this. A lot of people are resisting this. A lot of people recognize, some unconsciously, some subconsciously, very few consciously, recognize that it is the presence of the light that ruins their life. It does. The rainbow light ruins worlds that are based in rivalries and lies. Now, there is a very specific dynamic going on here that I need you to understand. Those of you who have been around for years, as many of you have, those of you who have been around for years have heard this. And I would like you to get good at starting to talk about it. So I don't know if you've challenged yourself, but I want you to be able to be present with these concepts and keep it simple. Learn to communicate to other people what's happening, because this is only going to ratchet up for the next decade. Think of it in these terms. For the next decade, we are going to be facing a certain kind of transcendence. And it's crucial that you appreciate how it works, because you're going to be seeing it in yourself. You're going to be seeing it in your family members. You're going to be seeing it in cultural dynamics. You're going to be seeing it in international politics. And the more you learn to see it, the more you can contribute to it being healthy. Today, we are going to do the best job we can to give you a simple, clear crash course. So those of you who are new can take it in, begin to internalize it. And those of you who've been around, I want you to consider you're the one that needs to teach other people this. It's crucial. Let me say hi. Violet, I'm so glad you're back. Bless you. Thank you for being here. Jonathan, grand risings to you. So good to see you. Jonathan just joined the sanctuary. It's wonderful to have you with us. My inspiring light poet, Bobby, thank you so much for being here. Top of the morning to you, sir. Sarah, good morning to you. Bless your heart. Thank you for being here. Sarah just kicked some butt in her yoga practices over the past several weeks. It's awesome. She is communicating so clearly how she's learning. She's an incredible yogic teacher right now. I'd love you to consider our school. The sanctuary is a school for how to do what we're talking about today. Visit the website, wildflowerfire.com. Check into it. Sarah, Honor, thank you for being here. Alicia, welcome. Good morning. Hi, y'all. Nick. Brina, thank you for being here. Good morning. Beautiful, beautiful light. Emiliano, thank you for being here, my dear sir. I am so glad to have you with us. Emiliano is an incredible spark. He's been helping me in lots of wonderful ways. It's really cool to have you with us. Sierra, welcome. I don't know if you are new or you've been around and you're just saying hi for the first time, but you are so welcome here. Jilly Bean, I love it. Thank you for being here. Oh, hi, Carrie. Oh, bless your heart. It's good to have you here, Carrie. All right, Violet, this is what we're going to talk about. Oh my gosh, you got it, Violet. This is it. This is it. We are talking to this challenge. This is today. This is today. This is so beautiful. And I really believe that if I do a good enough job, I can speak into your experience in a way I believe many of us are sharing. And if we get this in context, it's going to be a transcendent step today. So here's what, there are multiple pieces that have to fit together. We're going to weave them together. It might feel a little nonlinear. That can be messy and that can be spectacular. So we want it to be as graceful as possible. I'm going to do my best. I'm going to do my best. Help me out. Let me know if something doesn't make sense. Ask your questions. I might miss them. I'm going to ask some of the OG to hint, get in touch with me, like make a couple posts to get my attention if I'm missing something crucial, because this matters so much. We're being invited into a world that's based in love. We're being invited into a rainbow world. The simple version of what that means is we are transcending enemies. You know this, you feel it, you know what it tastes like, right? You know that this is so right, this is so true. And then you know when you're in the presence of a force that's ruining it. And it's confusing for a simple reason. Red and blue and green and violet and lime and turquoise, we're all equals. All these colors are equals of the rainbow. They're all equal. But when we respect each color and then are in the presence of that color, they're like, hey, cool, man, you're like me. You're with me. By the way, fuck those red people. Oh, no. I actually wasn't saying that. I was saying I love you and I love them. Wait, you love them? You're my enemy. You see how this works? This has been happening to you probably in ways that you haven't understood. You are learning to love each of the hues of light. Hues of light. You are learning to love the essence, because make no mistake, this is not primarily about culture and race. This is primarily about hues of light that are channeled through cultures. So you've been learning to love all of it. And when you're in the presence of any one hue, you have an incredible ability to be present with them. But feeling that boundary where they stray from the heart of what they are into the bullshit, the negativity, the rejection of the other colors, it's hard. It's hard to know, and it's hard to know how to change the course of a conversation, of a collaboration, of a camaraderie. When you are hanging out with turquoise, you can feel the essence of turquoise and love it together. But if they are someone who despises green, how do you say, I love you for what you are, but you have to stop despising that? We need all of this. They've decided that green is evil. So let's set that down for a second and be present with why it works like this. First of all, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your likes. It helps a lot. Knowing that you appreciate this makes a big difference. So honestly, don't click like unless you really do. But if, it seems childish to appreciate the YouTube games, but this gives me a sense of who's here and feels the heart of it in a way that it's like a little poll. And I'm grateful to you for liking what we're doing, for being a part of it. I am most grateful to you for being here at all, for sharing your time with us, for making this an important part of your day, your week, and your life. Thank you. Imagine you have, there's a person and they have a family. This one person, doesn't matter who they are, what their name is, what their gender is, this one has latent problems. They have latent problems. They carry wounds from their childhood that they haven't fully faced. Well, when they're poor, they're legit. They care about their family. They love their family. They scrape by. They get their basic food. They pay their rent. They're trudging through. If you give this person more money, they might go gamble. When they only have enough to live on, they keep their discipline, sort of. They're a little sloppy, but when you give them more money, they gamble. And when they gamble, they lose. Wait, maybe it's worse. They buy a lot of alcohol. They throw a party. They're insecure. They carry pain. They want to be loved. They throw a party. They spend way too much money on the party. People get sick. People don't treat each other well. When this person has more resources, they're not prepared to handle those more resources. They misuse them, and the life of everyone involved, particularly their family, gets worse. So what are we going to do? Well, I encourage you to start with the fact that the only reason someone would make mistakes like that is if they carry wounds. This is not an abstract personality disorder. This is what happens when people carry sickness inside them that they don't know how to deal with. When they're very at the edge of survival, these things aren't as prevalent. But as soon as they pass survival, these things come to the surface. So the only imperative here is to heal. But we live in a world where it's not normal. It's not normal to face things on a regular basis. We're not taught in school. We're not taught in our cultures the imperative to heal your baggage, to face your karma. We don't even have that word in most contexts. So what happens? This is a spiritual dynamic. You are the full spectrum of light. You are the full spectrum of light. This is what you are. It's not something you learn to attain. This is not ascension. This is, set those words aside. I think they can be misleading. You are this from the start, but you don't know how to handle the power yet. Okay, wait, let's take it off you for a second. Let's put it aside because maybe some of you do. We're in a culture that most of the people don't know how to handle the power yet. So what do? Well, we create a rivalry that wastes our spirit, wastes it on purpose so we can't misspend it. We purposefully generate rivalries in order to not be so powerful. Sounds absurd, right? But it's crucial. We have lived through thousands of years of not being our full power while we work out our karmic challenges. It's daunting to accept the scope of this. It's daunting, but this is how it works. People started with war. One culture, another culture, everything that this culture can't handle and everything that this culture can't handle gets thrown away. We hate it. Blue hates red, red hates blue. And they kill each other. And they have not been able to transcend this because they weren't capable of being the full rainbow. But we are the full rainbow. See, this is the crucial piece to get. This is what you are. You are not learning to attain it. It's not over there and you're getting it. It's not up there and you're climbing to it. It's here. You're starting with your fullness and being taught to throw it away. This is intrinsic in the world. This is normal. Orange hates red, red hates yellow, blue hates red. A lot of people hate red because they made red evil. Red happens to carry a certain kind of passion that's very easy to articulate as too far. People don't know how to play with fire. It's better to just tell the kids not to be with fire. There are all sorts of direct analogies that are born out of this. The crucial piece to understand is until people are close to well, you can't even breathe the experience of the full spectrum of light without going a little bit insane. Oh, that's what's happening. What's happening right now is that humanity in general has evolved enough that some of us are waking up to experience the full spectrum of light. This is what a spiritual awakening is. It's experiencing the full rainbow within yourself. Your Kundalini carries the code that blocks a portion of your energy. Now, on a practical level, this ends up translating into you are blocking different hues of light. And on a personal level, you are blocking your own karma from before this life. That's how it ends up translating. When you flow a full spectrum of light through your body, you experience what it's like to not hate anymore. You start to love everybody. You start to know how intuitively to love everyone. And you need it. You start to need it. Because once you experience this, it's like, don't take me back. Don't pull me out of this. This is truth. Nothing matters as much as this. If you have not felt this yet, please allow yourself to be next to the feeling. Once you know what it feels like to love everyone, it's awful to experience anything else. And I urge you to consider that you don't have to leave it. Where people often lose this flow is when you have to come to terms with the fact that some people that you know how to love are not ready to love you. And even more, that to love them is to hold space to make them accountable to this truth, not their own, not to support them in what they think they want, to support them only as the being that has to learn how to be a part of the rainbow. And that means you may end up holding space to essentially force them to confront themselves. And this is where the warrior comes in. Many people access the rainbow, and many people back away from it and then go back to it and then back away from it and go back to it. It is our job here to be present with each other in a way that helps us stay. And to stay in this next level is to own the warrior. Now, I know this is somewhat unpopular with some of you. Some of you would like spirituality to be apart from the world. I'm a spiritual channel. He's not a spiritual teacher if he starts talking practical. But when we bridge the gap into mainstream reality, we're starting to see something. Spirituality has been separated out of the material existence, the capitalistic material existence we've been using for a while. It's been separated. At best, we've been taught to just try to respect everybody. Whatever your religion is, we are all one. But it ends up being too vague. Because here's the fact. Some people are making more mistakes than others. Some traditions are led by people who are making more mistakes than others. How do you oppose that without becoming the fight? How do you win a fight without becoming the fight? And I'm going to tell you, on a certain level, I won't say it's easy, but it's simple. You don't have to do it yourself. You reflect it. You must be willing to reflect people's hostility back at them. I call this spiritual Aikido. I studied Aikido with a master. It's an incredible tradition. The principle in its heart is that when someone throws aggression at you, you do the least amount of effort necessary to flip them into the ground. The least amount of effort necessary to flip them in the ground. And you learn to be present with that as all you need to do. Because if someone attacks you in a tepid way, like they punch you, but it's not super strong, they're not going to get hurt as bad. The more aggression they put into fighting you, the more effectively you learn to just channel that energy. Instead of hitting you, they hit the ground. That's it. They hurt themselves. You become a catalyst to enhance their karma. You become a catalyst to enhance their karma. And I'm inviting you to realize that this is an art form you can learn, and it starts with intention. It is likely that most of you listening to this do something else. You take it on, right? You let them hit you. You let them stomp out your fire. You let them crush your flowers in the garden that you try to grow every day. Right? This is what you're doing, correct? How many of you am I talking to? It's more than half. I can feel it. More than half of you are allowing yourself to get crushed because you don't want to hate them. because you don't want to become the violence, the resentment. And I love you for it. I love you for it, but please do me a favor. Be present with me because I avoid doing this. I've been awake for 25 years. I know there's a lot of people out there and I really resent competing with them. But every once in a while, I want to say these kids better learn a little more before they keep their mouths open. Because a lot of people are talking about their awakening and they don't have a fucking clue how to handle these forces. And I do. I know how to love you in this space and I know how to teach you how to keep your light alive. You have to stop taking it on. It is not your job to hold their pain. It is not your job to receive their resentment. I honor you. I honor you for doing it the way you've done it. But the world needs you to stay alive. The world needs you to stay alive, and you are internalizing the anger. You are angry. You've been growing a sacred spiritual garden around you, and it's been getting crushed. And the natural response is to be angry. And then you're internalizing the anger, correct? This is about a third of you now. I can feel it. About a third of you are just internalizing that anger, and you're living with low-grade depression on a regular basis because depression is anger turned inwards. And that anger was designed to help protect you. That anger was awakening to say, get the fuck out of my space. But you didn't say that because you didn't want to fight. And I'm telling you, you need to. But be good. Be good at it. Be good at it. A yoga pose can tell someone to fuck off. The reason you are confronting so much negative aggression is because people somewhat consciously, unconsciously to borderline consciously know that you're the one that's ruining it for them. You are. You are ruining it for them. The presence of your light is breaking their mind. It is forcing them to confront the internal contradictions. It is forcing them to confront themselves. People have been living in games where they take their pain and they throw it at someone else, and they take their pain and they throw it at someone else. And every time they throw their pain at someone else, they get temporary relief from their pain. All you need to do is stand next to them and it breaks their bullshit. They can't continue to pretend that they're not in pain. Their mechanisms for avoiding their confusion and their delusion and their sadness at what they've lost and their disrespect. They disrespect themselves because they're making choices they don't believe in. They disrespect themselves because they're not going for their dreams. When they resent someone else, when they emphasize how someone else is mistreating them, when they reject the other team, they feel better. And you're ruining it. Because when you bring the rainbow to life, you're bringing it back too fast. They don't get their temporary relief. So they're pushing back on you. They're pushing back on anyone who wakes up the rainbow because the rainbow ruins their mind. The rainbow ruins their ability to say blue is better than red. And that's you. And this goes in a cycle. You go for the truth, the good, the love. You go for one love. You pray for it. After a while, you can't stop. There's no other option. You can't get yourself to dream of anything else, right? Good for you. Now, protect it. Keep it lit. Notice the ways in which you hesitate to step into your full power because you know what you'll have to confront. Notice the way you're playing small because you don't want to have to face them again. And commit to doing it so well that they start to avoid you. And they will. Bullies live everywhere. This is the hands down hardest thing about awakening is that when you find that some of the people who are in your life are basically energetic bullies. They love you as long as you play the game. the way you've been playing it. They love you as long as you take the dissonance. They love you as long as you play the beautiful whatever role you've been playing. They love you as long as you're the punching bag. They love you as long as you shut up when you're told. They love you as long as you set down your beauty and step away. They love you as long as they can tease you meanly and you'll put up with it. They love you as long as they can undermine your center at will. But with your truth, when you're honest with yourself, and you have to recognize that maybe that's your mom, maybe that's someone who's been friends with you for a decade, maybe that's your boss. And for you to retain your light, you have to come to terms with that. Now, I am sure that someone's mother and someone's good friend for decades and someone's boss who are listening to this right now are that person. To say no to them is hard. To say no with the recognition that you might lose them. And make no mistake, I don't know any other way to do this. You have to come from a place where you're willing to lose them, and then it's in their court. Are they going to become a better person? The only way that they're going to become a better person if someone challenges them to change their way. And you can't. I'm telling you right now, and I'm sorry, but it's not up to you. You can't get a promise that they're going to come to. You can't get a promise that they're going to join it. You can't get a promise that they're going to choose within themselves. Because make no mistake, they're the rainbow too. They're the good. They're the love. They're the light. But they might not be ready to own it. And you may have to challenge them from a space where you're willing to lose them. And if you don't dig that deep, it won't work. You'll sacrifice it. You might play chicken, but if you're the one that dodges away at the last minute, no. You got to hold it. You got to hold it. And when you do, after a while, they're going to give up on trying to roll over you anymore. And at that point, they're going to choose whether to cut you out or not. You don't have to. You just have to be willing to let it happen. Stretch break. Now, I'd like you to start drumming up your questions in relation to what we're talking about here, because it's my job to train you. I want you to appreciate I'm essentially pretty hardcore. I wouldn't let anything stop me. And I'm proud of that. I am. I'm very proud of that. And it's a problem. It's a little, it's like I died. My ego died, but I made a little bit of another one that's stuck. And I don't want it to negatively impact you. I fell again and again and again. I lost myself again and again and again. I just learned to be resilient. To be resilient on the level you need to be means you're not taking an absolute measure. You're not saying like, I'm going to run a marathon. You know how long that is, right? You're saying, I will be as resilient as I need to be. That's scary in a different way. And it's different for everybody. It's different for all of you. How resilient do you need to be? Some of you have family members that will change. Some of you have family members that won't. Some of you have family members that will change some. Some of you might have to leave everyone. I want to be able to support you each in that. And I want to respect you when you choose to calm it down because you feel that someone has the potential if you just chill out and stay close. There is no perfect plan to all of this. But we do need to be with each other to keep the light alive. And the prophecy of the Rainbow Warriors is ancient. This is built in. This is the end of the historical story and the Hopi give it to us. Go listen to it. Look up the Rainbow Prophecy. This is you. It's already started. We're in it. We're in it. It's happening. You're needed. And you're needed to keep this rainbow of light alive within you. And to keep it alive is to say, I'm not gonna fall. I'm not gonna step aside. I won't do it. And once you look into realizing the ways in which you've been turning your light down, it's so painful. It's so painful, and it can make you a little paranoid. And the only medicine I know for this is to gather together with those who do believe in each other. Because the paranoia is legit. Something's happening to you. You're taking on a negative vibration that's ruining what you want. And sometimes it's a little like, what just happened? What just happened? You see a face, you have an interaction with someone you love, but there's something wrong with it. And they're essentially shoving you off your game. And the temptation is to respond to them with too much anger, and then you look a little crazy. I don't want you to do that either. I want you to feel the anger, internalize it into a question. You hold the question in your heart. How do I keep my light alive now? Now, one of the best things to do is develop a spiritual practice. This is very practical. Develop a spiritual practice so you can relight your fire every day. Once you start to do this as a normal part of your life, you gain perspective. It's no longer as vague. You get yourself with the light flowing through you, the love is churning, and then you just go into your life. Do what you do anyway, and start to watch what pulls you off. I could do the most incredible practice in the morning and feel it when I go to bed. I'm still feeling it. I'm like, yep, there's my practice. Wow, that really worked today. That was a good one. This happens to be a lot. I can do an incredible practice, and by the afternoon, I feel like shit because I made bad choices. I watched something I didn't need to watch. I participated in a conversation that was entirely out of tune, and I didn't have any ability to speak my truth within it. I needed to just leave it. But I was struggling too much to try to bring my light into a space that wasn't ready to receive it. I end up internalizing the tension. It ends up being this clear. I want you to see into a future where it's this clear. And you live it as tension. You develop a clarity through your practice that's pure, and you know it. You get good enough at how to manage your energy and your body and your mind that you bring them into coherence. This is what we're doing. Check out Wildflower Fire. We have courses that teach you how to do this. And I'm giving away all the practices. Wild Chakra Yoga. It's linked in the description. It's a separate channel with just yogic chakra yoga practices that teach you how to do this. So you get the clarity of how to feel within yourself. You know it. You learn to make this normal, where you're feeling your heart on a regular basis. Then when you don't feel it, or then when it feels off, it's like, wait, what's going on? I am encouraging you to respect the reason that you struggle not to do this has nothing to do with your lack of resolve or will, or the fact that you're lazy or uncommitted. You are shrinking because it is so painful to realize who doesn't want you to be healthy. It is so painful to learn that in order to keep yourself truly healthy, you're going to have to make big life decisions that you don't want to make. And I have every sympathy for you in that. Now, look, some of you don't. Some of you are going to step into this health and you've already done work in all sorts of other ways. You're blessed with the karma that gave you a family that's going to be like, word, do it. But I'd like you to care about and love the people here with us gathered who, in order to change, have to confront some very steep barriers and have to make some very big changes. And the best medicine I know is to circle up with each other and develop a strength and camaraderie where we can reinforce. We need each other. We need each other to stay lit. And the beautiful, beautiful gift of this is that when we have each other, when we have people who are just on board, we all share the same goals, we all share the same light, we're all committed to not hating or being in competition. It's a big deal. It's transcendent. It's better than any other Olympic athlete, truly. If you need to have a rival who you're hoping does worse than you, that's like fundamentally spiritually, there's a little bit of illness in it. I'm not saying don't appreciate the incredible gift of such achievements. I'm saying there's a little bit of spiritual illness in wanting someone else to do worse than you. No, we're confronting a world that's sick. We're confronting a world that is covered in sickness. We are detoxing our sickness as a human race into the water, into the air. Our soils are sick. We're going to turn Central America, the center of North America, into a desert because we're covering it with pesticides and fertilizers. Why are we doing that? Because we're terrified of not having enough food. Why are we terrified? Because so many people don't want to participate in growing food. They'd rather outsource it. So we have to have small numbers of people make a massive amount of food. And the only way they're going to do that is with massive amounts of artificial inputs. What happens over time if you do that? You destroy the soil structure. Soil is an incredible complex network of life. Healthy soil will grow good food for thousands of years, but you have to maintain it. If you take too much and you don't give back what it needs, it gets sick and it will eventually die. And if it dies, it turns to sand and dust. We are detoxing our fears into the waterways and the soil and the air. That's what's happening right now. That's happening all around us. Pretending that's not happening, not good. You hear this call deep enough, this transition is seamless. You take care of your own body, you start to want to take care of the human body around you, the human consciousness. Because human consciousness is detoxing our pain and fear into the earth, and we're going to destroy our ecosystems. We are destroying our ecosystems because we're too afraid to learn to live well. Make no mistake, it's all lazy shortcuts. This is where the laziness is. It's in the cultural response to what it takes to live well on earth. We're not doing the work. We want shortcuts. We want a pill rather than to confront our demons. Show me a single disease where a pill is actually going to help you solve the problem. Show me one. And I'll introduce you to the deeper currents where the sickness is actually grounded in underlying patterns of karmic behavior. We don't want to face it. And to be someone who faces this early is to wake up the rainbow. To wake up the rainbow is to be someone who faces this early. And to keep your light alive in the face of a world that doesn't want to see this yet, it's hard. It's hard. One of the first things that happens is you feel the vibration in everything you touch. When you have rainbow light moving through you, you go through a spiritual awakening, you have some ability to maintain it, you feel the vibration in everything you encounter. If you live out of balance for a couple of weeks, you'll lose the ability to feel the vibration. It's really this simple. But you maintain your practice enough, you stay in tune, you can feel the vibration. Now you pick up an item in the grocery store. It's sick. You can tell it's sick. It's straightforward. You can feel it. stings. There's a metallic sting to a lot of food. Don't eat anything for 3 days and then eat a piece of processed bread. It'll burn your mouth. It'll burn your mouth. It's always doing that to you. You're just numb. To wake up to the truth of this is difficult. We're here to help you do it. We're here to help you stay. And I have to tell you, this is the deep end, people. This is not my ego talking. My ego is I'm proud of myself for how long I stayed late when nobody knew how to listen to me. Look, I hired someone, I paid someone $2,000 to build me a thing that looked a little bit like YouTube so I could make recordings and travel around the country trying to teach what I was learning. I did that 21 years ago. But YouTube wasn't really working yet. And it was a little over my head to make everything work together. We bought a bus, like I incorporated a nonprofit. I was trying to do this 21 years ago. It's a little too much. So I went deeper. And when I went deeper, I learned a lot more than I'd learned before. And I'm here with all of it. I'm here with all of it. Word. Yes, Sarah. I met with a Hopi elder. She taught me about the rainbow prophecy. And she said, the rainbow warriors that we're called to be would be drawn to two things: social justice and healing the water. This is where to begin. When you heal the water, you heal the soil, because when it rains, the water goes through the soil and then it floods into watersheds. Now, I want you to learn one concept that's very practical right now. And this is like, it's amazing, it's obvious, and yet it's likely you don't know this. Everywhere you are exists in a watershed. A watershed means when the rain falls, where does the rain go? Basically. So rain is going to go downhill and pool into streams that pool into creeks, that pool into lakes and rivers. And all of that eventually goes to the ocean. So a watershed says the rain where you are is going to end up going into the ocean somewhere. Where is it? Like, learn that. You probably don't know. Now, here's the crucial piece. That water carries everything it picks up in the soil. So when we put chemicals in the soil, the water gets it. That's why so many lakes are sick, because all the excess fertilizer and pesticide ends up in the water, ends up in the lake. So the pesticides kill what lives there. The fertilizer feeds anything that makes it past the pesticides, and you have monster plants and monster algae all over the world. One of the first things that happens when you wake up spiritually is that you start to care about this and social justice. Social justice. Social justice. Now I'm going to ask you something. I'm going to ask you a favor. Those of you who have not been around a long time don't know these, so I don't mean to shock you or anything, but this is something that, I speak about in my community periodically. One of the things that happened to me when I woke up was I found out I'd been molested when I was a kid. Now, that was really daunting. And many people face something like this. What I'm asking of you is that you dig deeper than you might want to dig. Because what I've found as a white man is that people actively held less sympathy for me and still do. It's like, yeah, he went through trauma, but he was a white man. That's not going to work. When we come together as a rainbow, we have to care about everybody suffering, including people who look like me. The game as it stood says who's going to be the alpha. And the tricky part of that is, like, sometimes it could be easier to choose a hero and say, okay, you're my hero, fight for me. What we need to do is change the game. The Kennedys were great heroes for Black America on a certain level. But that's not enough. When you give your power to some other hero, it's disempowering, I promise you. Now, in the United States, we lived in a world where that was a pretty legit choice. Black Americans got beat so regularly and still do that it makes an awful lot of sense to try to choose another hero to stand up for you. However, we need something that breaks this whole game. We need something that breaks this whole game. And to dig deep enough to break the game is to appreciate that we're basically not being human. Alpha male dynamics are animalistic. And I mean that with disrespect. We are supposed to stay human, and we are not. We are living in a world where massive ranges of communities define alpha males based on who would win Lord of the Flies. Really, this is happening all the time. Who has the power that you have to ask is? People are making choices based on this and then adjusting around it. And I'm asking you to appreciate, I'm not offering to win that game. I am calling you together to help rewrite the game. I suffered terribly in the world as it is. It was awful for me. A lot of white men do. I would urge you to consider that the vast majority of white men, this sucks. I was put in a headlock in high school by a wrestler. It was one of the most demeaning, demoralizing things that have ever happened to me. I had no idea how to respond. He was a wrestler. He was my size, but he knew how to hold my neck in a fucking chokehold. No one knew about it. No one saw. And for years, I don't think I told anybody. I was so embarrassed. Now, most of the stories that come out of the United States and we shit on the rest of the world suggest I should go train and then kick his ass. What if that sucks? What if this is just a recipe for hell continuing for the rest of our days? Why don't the stories involve him triggering and going, holy shit, I don't want to be an asshole? Why don't the stories involve two people confronting each other, someone confronting a bully, and the bully starting to cry and saying, I don't want to be like this anymore? Why aren't those our stories? I've had multiple major confrontations in my life. During one of them, a man who was scaring dozens of people, one man was scaring dozens of people. And I walked up and I sat with him and I stared at him. And he ended up hugging me. I opened my arms to give him a hug. It was one of the most pivotal moments of my life. In that moment, I was like, why is this? I never saw this. I never saw this in a movie. I've seen hundreds of bullies killed, knocked out, punched, demeaned, hundreds. But I had never seen a movie where the bully started to cry and said, I don't want to be this anymore. Please, if you know of a movie like that, please send it to me so I can show it to my children. Why is that not our story? Why is our story not about teaching people how to stop behaving this way? It's about beating them, demeaning them, but justly, for justice. Let me tell you something. Last week, we saw that story almost. But a lot of people are misreading it. Now, I don't know how many of you aren't in the US. I find it incredibly awesome how many people chime in and say you're not from the US. By the way, please comment and say where you're from. I love it. It's so good to know where everyone's from. Last week, Kamala Harris did this. And she did. I would encourage you to realize that she's riding the edge. This is not just a story of breaking the bully. This is a story of someone who knows full well that's not the most important thing she's doing. She knows full well we have a lot of work to do beyond this point, and we have to figure out how to transcend this hate. We have to pick up the bullies. We have to teach them how to love the rest of us. Now, maybe we're not going to get everybody, but millions of people in my country follow the bully because this is what they've been taught to do. You're living in a bear in the woods. You're a chipmunk. You're a sparrow. You don't fight the bear. You adjust around the bear. So when an alpha defines themselves and beats away other alphas, a lot of people are raised in cultures where you don't even consider trying to unseat that alpha. And then we have all these stories about unseating the alpha and replacing them. But what we need to do is unseat the game. And that's what's happening. All across the world, polarized dynamics are going to break because we are ready to transcend the need to throw our pain at each other. And what it looks like at first is hell. It's going to look increasingly awful. More violence, more fights, more chaos, more confusion, because we've been held stable by rivalries. We have been held stable by throwing our pain at each other. And when as we are beginning to transcend this pattern, it looks worse. And I need you to participate in understanding this because we have to guide people through it. It looks worse because all of a sudden millions of people are having to feel their own feelings and they're reaching to throw it at someone else because they want to go back to the times when they could just hate somebody else, avoid somebody else, reject somebody else. And it's not working anymore because the fundamental energy flows have been changed. As above, so below. They changed it already. The Republican Party is going to collapse. And I don't want you to dance on their graves. If you're the kind of person that is celebrating that, please just get over it gracefully. If you're the kind of person that grieves because this is your community, I'm sorry. It is time. First of all, in my country, the Republicans are more of a personality cult. They have become something that is not acceptable. They generate more fear and they generate more violence. It's not as clear as people want to think, though. All across the world, the liberal communities, the progressive dreams are going to start winning, and we have to keep going. We have to move through the victory into the responsibility to teach people how to participate in the rainbow. We have to not hate them. We have to not demean them. We have to not celebrate. You don't get to laugh at people once they lose. By all means, use humor, use vicious humor to tear down bullies, but stop when you win. And realize that we have a responsibility to change it, to invite them into a world where they get to be read. They get to be read. They get to be what they most care about. They just have to let go of their racism and their misogyny and the many ways in which they've designed cultures around resenting and controlling and dominating other people. I learned these lessons the hard way. I was molested by a man whose grandfather was likely a bastion of the Ku Klux Klan. He was a bishop. My great-grandfather was a bishop who argued all the way to the Supreme Court to try to keep Black people out of his church. There was a sickness in my family I had to confront, and I know exactly what it takes. I didn't say I'm willing to run a marathon. I said, I will do whatever it takes to end this. That's what you have to do. All of you are inheriting sickness in your family, in your culture. And it's different for everyone of you. But it's the same in that we have to say no to these patterns. We are the chain breaker. We're breaking this chain. We will not continue the pattern because that pattern is saying no to the rainbow. That pattern is saying no to crystalline light. And we're making a choice together to be together in the rainbow. Our commonality, whether you live anywhere, of any color, of every hue, our commonality is more important than our heritage. Our commonality is more important than our heritage. This is not a vague statement. This is us saying we believe in the rainbow more than we believe in our color. My brand of peach pink is not This is just what I bring to the potluck of rainbow light. The only people who aren't invited are the people who won't come into pure light. In a certain sense, everyone's invited. You just can't. You can't step in. You can't step in to what we are unless you let go of your desire to be dominant in the rainbow. You don't get that anymore. It's over. We got to win. We got to win. And then we got to make a new world. It's our job. It already exists. We got to bridge the gap. Sacred beings, angels, gods and goddesses, divine spiritual guides are already all over the world in tune with this sacred new way. They exist. They're here. They're talking to us. They're trying to reach out to you. How do you think you had a spiritual awakening? They seeded it in you. We need to tune into it and bring this into the material. We need to bring this into the lives that we know. And that's our work, stepping ahead. So stick with us. Stick with us. Come back every Tuesday, 10 a.m. You're welcome. Live on YouTube. Check out the website, wildflowerfire.com. Look at the description. There's a range of the offerings that we share. Your money is welcome. Your presence is even more welcome. Your commitment is most welcome because we got work to do. We need you. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. No, not too much pressure, Mr. Thoth. That's a lot of pressure. We're going to live with it. I can't encourage you enough. Own your practice. Get down in that link. Visit Wild Chakra Yoga. Sign up. There's a foundation practice list. Do one of those every other day. Okay? I want you to tell other people this is what it takes. This is what it takes. Get 20 minutes every other day of the practices we share, and you're going to tune into Rainbow Light. It'll work. We'll guide you from there. I am so glad to share this with you. Violet, thank you. Thank you for being here. Something I like the color in general, but your spirit is special. Thank you. Violet Love is a pretty awesome name to begin with. Thank you for being here. Larissa, my goodness. You know, I knew a woman, a singer in LA named Larissa. She chanted like rock kirtans. It was awesome. You've got a sister out there in the world. That's beautiful, Larissa. And I am betting if you have known yourself as the bridge, you've had a hard time knowing when to let go, and that you've probably taken on too much for some of the people around you. You need to stay with the light. And if people won't stay in the light with you, give them their space. Let them make that choice. I love you. I'm grateful you're here. We're flipping over to the sanctuary. Check out wildflowerfire.com. Sanctuary, there's a link to join us. Thank you so much for your donations. I greatly appreciate it. I'm going to have to work soon on being more intentional as a business communication. So keep your eyes out for some more promotional videos because we need to make that change as well. Flip over, join us, meditation, hanging out. I love you. Much love. Be with you and your families.